This is A is for Adversity, a podcast about curating your life stories to connect more deeply with others. Some stories may have Christian undertones, and all stories will involve a realization or transformation of some sort. I'm your host, Jen Banks. This is episode Z, Zooming Out, and season 3 preview. I cannot believe this is the last episode of this season. This season went by way faster than the first one. I'm excited to start season 3 and don't see myself stopping anytime soon. I hope you'll join me in season 3 and we'll talk about that in just a minute. I love the idea of zooming out. I think I talked about this a little bit when we talked about perspective, but there's so much to see if you just take a step back and if you're not in the thick of things. As it relates to storytelling, you might be in the middle of your story. You might be close to the end and not even realize it. I also think I've mentioned this picture book before, but I'll again recommend it. It's called Zoom, and there are no words, just pictures. It starts on a very close image of a rooster, and you don't realize it's a rooster until a couple pages later when it zooms out. And then you see that it's a rooster on a little farm, and then children are playing with it. It zooms out again, and there's a child playing with the children on the farm, so it's a play set. It keeps going and going until the end where it's zoomed out all the way till you see a picture of the earth. This is so relevant to our lives because oftentimes, like I said, we're in the thick of it. We don't realize what's happening or why it's happening because we're in the moment. But as time passes or as we take a step back, things become clearer. We are under contract for a house, and this is a long-awaited dream. Recently, I posted on Facebook asking for help and prayers and encouragement because I was getting discouraged with how long it was taking to find a house in this housing market. Literally a week later, we found our house. So it's so true. You just have no idea how close you are to the end of waiting. No matter where you are, hold on. Next season's theme is empowerment, and I am so excited for this. Just like last season, I started getting ideas halfway through the current season of what I would talk about in the future season. Season 1 was about living intentionally, and I only had one guest throughout that whole season. In season 2, I counted, and I had 19 guests out of 26 episodes. My goal for season 3 is to scale it back a little and find more of a balance. With season 2, it almost didn't feel like my podcast at times because I had so many guests. Don't get me wrong, I loved hearing other people's stories, but I also missed talking with you guys and sharing my perspective and my thoughts and my vision. I do have some really cool guests lined up already, though. Dana Davis is going to be one of those guests. I mentioned her in the very, very, very first episode of this podcast. She's one of the 3 life coaches that have influenced my life. It's her, Sherry Fernandez, whom I had as a guest in season 2, and then Jody Moore, who I don't know if I'll ever have her as a guest on my podcast, but that would be super great. So I'm really excited to have Dana Davis because that's 2 out of the 3 life coaches that have influenced my life. If you've heard of Kodiak Cakes, they will also be a guest on my podcast, so I'm really excited for that. And a few other small businesses have agreed to come on my podcast. If you know of anyone who would want to be on my podcast, please reach out and let me know. I'm always looking for connections. On my mission, I saw an image that I really related to. It resonated with me, and I've remembered it ever since. It was a scale, the old-fashioned kind that have the weights on both sides. And on the right was our demands in life. It was really weighed down, almost touching the ground. And on the left was our resources. There were hardly any resources to help with the demands on the right side. This is what causes stress in our lives, when the demands that are placed upon us outweigh the resources we are given to handle them or cope. This is where empowerment comes in. This is the support and the help and the light that we get from others or from within that helps us to lift and carry those demands. I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic, and I hope you're looking forward to it too. Thanks as always for listening, and if you have a moment, go leave a review. If you'd like to pitch your story for the podcast, or if you want more storytelling strategies, contact me at jenbanks16@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram at jenbankscoaching.